Well, hello everybody. You've discovered part 19 of the Sylvania 542 restoration. The end is in sight. We have this part and one more video, and we will be done with this pup. Now, three things have to happen in this particular video. One, I need to figure out what I want to do with this back, which I've kind of got it figured out a little bit. I scraped all the paint that was red off of this winding right here, and it revealed a nice copper core down here that this antenna is made out of. I'm gonna leave that like that. I kind of like that. It looks really nice. It shined up really well. So what I need to do is heat up the soldering iron and slip out these two pieces of black and white wire here, and we're gonna replace them with longer leads, because before, the original leads that this back was hooked into the tuning condenser with was only about maybe 4 inches long, 5 inches long. Made it really hard to open the back of the radio to access tubes if they needed replaced or service or anything. So we're going to make these about 8 inches long. That way there's plenty of room that you could open the back of the radio up, get in there and service. You won't bother nothing. So I'll have to solder new ends on this and then go into the unit itself in the back and solder two new leads onto the tuning condenser. Second, we need to paint these knobs. Originally these knobs were kind of a gold color. As you can see, they have a metallic gold look on them, probably to match the rest of the unit. Well, at first I was going to go with this Krylon metallic. It's a silver. My wife had this stuff around here. I thought, well, I'll try to use it up. But initial tests showed that unless you applied this really light, you didn't get the chrome finish that it shows on the cap. If you laid this on real heavy on anything, or just laid it on a little thicker than what you wanted to, it instantly turned to a flat gray. Yeah, I don't want that. Okay, that's out of the picture. So I stopped at Lowe's last night. I love Valspar paint, and that's a lot of what Lowe's is starting to sell is Valspar. And I found it in a metallic gold. And I got to admit, it's a pretty close color to them knobs. And it's a little bit flashier than what the front of the radio is. So it ought to draw your attention right to them knobs once they're reinstalled. So we got to paint the knobs today. And lastly, after the knobs are all done, I got a very high quality clear coat. I've had this around for a while. This is plastic coat product. And we'll clear coat the knobs. I'm going to clear coat the back once I get the new stubs welded on, or soldered on them. And we'll clear the back right here. Just real light. I don't want it to turn dark. We'll tape up our leads and clear coat them. The back, I should say. And that'll be done. This will be done. And lastly, I discovered a new product on another YouTuber's video I want to try on this unit. It's called Meguiar's Plastics. And this is good for headlight covers and plastics on vehicles. And it's good for taking, like the headlight covers from cloudy to clear. Well, what did I think about using it for? This bezel on the front, to see if it will at least take the haze out of it. I doubt it will remove these white marks. They're in the plastic. It's just gassing of the plastic, I think. We're going to see if we can apply some to the inside in a small spot like down in the corner, and do some to the outside in a small spot in the corner, and see how it polishes up. If I like it, I might do the whole cabinet that way, just in little spots at first to make sure it's color safe. It doesn't take the color off the cabinet, or bleach the color real bad so it's dull looking instead of the lustrous gray or green that it is now. I like that cabinet color. So that's the agenda for today. It's all going to start with these knobs. So let's go poke some holes in some cardboard, stick them in a piece of cardboard, and get them painted. It's a little chilly outside today, about 41 degrees, so I decided to use the bedroom we're working on upstairs here as a paint booth. Shouldn't need to paint a lot of stuff and make a lot of stink up here today. And this Valspar paint's pretty low VOC. It doesn't stink very bad, but the clear coat does. It's like 67% VOC, so I might have to clear them and then take them back downstairs real quick. But what I did here, I took a pocket knife and cut a couple holes into the cardboard box and stuck the knobs in there. I cleaned these knobs with alcohol before I decided to paint them, to remove all the grease and finger grime off of them over the years and anything else that might be on there. I was going to lightly sand them with some 200 grit sandpaper, but they are so soft it really scratched them up, so I nixed that. Let's see. That's kind of what they'll look like. Just a real light gold color. Don't take much. I like this Valspar paint. It really does a nice job on everything you use it on. And it might take a couple coats to get them the way we want. Well, I tell you what, those are looking really good. Doesn't take much. It really puts out a heck of a wallop when it sprays. So we'll let them set for a few minutes here and kind of dry, and I might have to hit them again. But first results are looking really well, and this stuff dries pretty quickly if I remember. Anywhere between 65 and 90 degrees. It'll take 1 hour for you to be able to handle it by, dry to touch in 1 hour. So, we've got our stuff to do in this project. Again, that's a metallic gold color called Brilliant, and that won't show up, but that's called Brilliant Gold. And this paint is good for wood, metal, crafts, and more. Valspar at Lowe's. Kind of pricey. It's about $6 a can. Sticker shock alone will have you reeling. But like I said, once we get everything the way we want it, we'll come back and we'll hit it with some plastic coat, car clear coat, which is some pretty tough stuff I've used that on a lot of projects, and the knobs will be done. Well, I gotta admit, somewhere in the world right now, somebody's watching this video and they're saying, "My God, he tore this thing apart again. Weren't we just about done?" Well, that's the fun part of a restoration of any kind. Is sometimes you have afterthoughts and things like that of things things that need done a little bit different sometimes, and sometimes there's ways to spruce other things up. So yeah, I had to take the dial glass back off again because I want to try to polish that haziness out of it with a new product. So I pulled the bezel off, set this aside because I don't want any of my clock hands messed up or anything. This was in good working order. And two, I want to change these wires on the back of the tuning condenser. And upon further inspection, I think what I'm going to do with this one is take this rectifier tube out right here, cut it back short, strip it, and splice the new wire in instead of messing with this solder joint on the side of the tuning condenser right there. I don't want to disturb that. That wire goes underneath the chassis, and I just don't want any heat anywhere near that. We've had enough trouble with the components under that chassis. Just leave well enough alone. This wire is going to stay black. And I did some digging out in the garage, and I actually found a bright white wire that we're going to replace this with instead of, as I said, I was going to go red, but we're going to go back to the white wire. Use the correct color coding, and it'll match the back. So we're going to do a little bit of polishing here and see what happens. And I've got the heating iron over the soldering iron on the other side of the room heating up. Slip them connections out of there and tin the new leads and attach them, cut them to length, tin the other ends. We ought to be ready to reattach this. Let's see how this cleans up first. We get this back on first, get this back in, and we can solder the antenna back on the unit. And hopefully by then our knobs are just about done. I've applied a little bit of the Meguiar's Plastex product in this corner of this dial bezel right here. We'll give it some time to dry. I'll do it inside and out and see how it does. So while that's over here chilling out, come over here and I'll show you what else I've been working on in the meantime. Got the new black and white leads installed here. Got the end of the black one tinned for installation on the back of the tuning condenser. And the white one I'll just cut the length when I get over there and tin the end and join it and heat shrink it together. Turned out pretty good. While I was in town last night, I left this behind for my wife to do some work on. I'm gonna make her a radio restorer yet. She said there's no way, but she does pretty good work. There was some bald spots on this back panel that were down to regular cardboard, and she has a lot of acrylic paints and craft paints and stuff like that, and she went up in her paint collection and got out what's just called plain red. You know, it's true red, I think is what it was called, and you can't tell the difference if that was ever missing there now, which would have been right from here to here, and then from the tip of my index finger to right here again was missing. And she touched up a lot of other spots in the meantime. I was going to repaint this whole thing red, but that was a lot of masking I'd have to do. I didn't want that to bleed out on the back, because there's, even though it's hard to see in spots, there's still writing on here. I want to, you know, kind of preserve that. So now that that's done, that's dry, this is installed, I can tape these two leads up, get them up out of the way, and we can clear coat this whole back with that automotive clear coat that I showed you upstairs for the knobs. So once that's done, we'll let it dry, see how the first coat looks, and maybe give it a second. I'm debating whether to do the back side here. I'm afraid that it's going to turn it dark if I do, so I think I'm just going to leave it alone. It's done really well over the years. I think I'll just leave well enough alone and not mess with it. So that's where we're at right now. Our back has received its first coat of clear coat finish. It really brightened that red up, sealed everything up, and we shouldn't have to worry about that again. I'll let this dry for about an hour and probably hit it one more time. Our knobs, on the other hand, aren't faring too well. This stuff isn't drying very well up here, so I turned the fan on. But I was noticing as this dried, it was separating from the knob. You could see the clear of the knob underneath of there, and I really hate to have to rough these knobs up because they're real soft plastic and they scratch really easy, and you're going to see them scratches in that finish when you're done. So this thing's going to have to be babied. I'll have to let it sit overnight for the first coat probably, and go from there. Check them tomorrow, just let them sit and cure out, and hopefully it'll bond and adhere pretty good. Now this stuff's made for crafts, so I'm assuming you come into a lot of contact with plastic and crafts sometimes, but if not, I might have to go to a maize color plastic paint, and that won't look quite right on this. These look great where they are right now, but I might have to make some adjustments, make this work out correctly. Okay, now our antenna board has been clear coated with the automotive clear coat sealed, and it turned out very nice. It's got a nice shine to it now, and that also will help this antenna coil stick down a little bit better. And I gotta say, once she painted that, you can't even tell it now if you just look at it real quick. So I can go ahead and take the tape off of here. Our cover right now, the front dial glass, is on its second coat of the Meguiar's Plastex. The front side is done, which actually it did pretty good. It did brighten it up quite a bit. This stuff takes forever to dry, it seems like, unless it's just because it's not too dry down here today. You know, it's kind of humid again, about 67% humidity down here, so it ought to dry fairly quick, but it stays wet. And I noticed whenever this stuff is set up to take back off, it you can really feel it grip on that glass when you wipe that stuff off. Must make it pure again, removes all them impurities and stuff. I don't know. It makes it look good, that's all that matters. So I did that. I'm impressed with that, and I also did the top of the cabinet, and we'll see how that buffs out. Alright guys, what do you think? That's after the Plastex application on that cover. Boy, it looks, took all that yellow haze and the weird funky marks out of the one side, out of this right side here. That's it brought it back to clear, that's for sure. Wherever somebody was real abrasive with it though, it didn't take that out, but it sure did brighten that up. That should look really good on there now. I recommend that product. It's Meguiar's Plastex, and it works really well. This is proof that it does. So now let's get this bezel put back on top, back onto the radio, and I still have to buff out the top of this. Boy, that did a nice job on that. You can see the reflection in it again now. Could never see that before. That's impressive. That's some good stuff right there. Go out and get you some McGuire's Plastex. Okay, the antenna has been remounted and wired in new wires to the old because I didn't want to mess with this solder joint down here. It's good to go. This is what the Plastex did to the front bezel. Isn't that sharp now? Took a lot of that haziness out of there. I think it's clear. Looks pretty good. Even polished the top of the cabinet up real well. So, we are ready to do one final check on this chassis, and then it's back into the cabinet we go. For one last time. And finally this gets screwed on. That's a good feeling. And we're back into the cabinet for one final time. And there we have it. For the first time in 2 years, the back is reinstalled on the unit. And she's done. So what's left? Knobs. We gotta put the knobs back on her. Don't that look sharp now? I get rid of a lot of that dullness in that glass. It's really good. Awesome.
little cute way to play with that light.